This is for day 2. Here's the thing. Every day in Advent of Code, I'll show you this how this works. You've got 2 parts. You've got the first part of the day and the second part of the day. The first part of the day is usually the easier part, and the second part is an extension or possibly a corollary of the first part, right? So um, I have it set right now to being part 2, right here. What I need is a switch. I need a little switch thing that says, like, it's either part 1 or it's part 2, right? Maybe like, I'm thinking just like a little radio button somewhere that says part 1 or part 2, probably close to, I'm imagining like it's close to the, around probably this button around here, maybe like a couple of radio buttons that are next to this power button that say part 1 and part 2. Another thing I want to fix is this. That button is right now sitting over this input, so I can do this, right? But that's fine. It's floating over the input, which is what I originally wanted. I have come to realize that obviously a lot of these inputs are going to be very, very large. So they're going, like when I had the input from before, like this input, I'm going to throw it in here, like it basically goes over the button, right? I don't actually want that. I don't want it to go over the button. I want the button to be a distinct, like, division, right? Which is how I should have had it the whole time. Let's fix that first because that feels like the easier thing to fix. Okay, so we've got your internet shut off. What are you paying for over there in Deutschland? Blue, you know? Why did they shut your internet off? Or did it just go out? That happens sometimes too. So the text area and the button, so this button should be part, actually, internet stick. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. You probably have a USB Wi-Fi router. I used one of those too. When I had my old laptop, the wireless card went out. So I had to use a USB dongle for basically to, like an external wireless card, more or less. And it does work. It works reasonably well. Although it was definitely worth $10. The $10 I spent on it. Because it was a little not fantastic, but it's probably just your internet router possibly went out and you're just using data. That happens. Okay, so I've got a div that this should be, let's look at it. I should also do coding. Heck yeah. So let's do, it's rebuilding. So this is an annoying thing about this. I'm just going to explain what this is. The hacking. We're cool. We are cool here. Indeed. What you're seeing here is this constant rebuild. I have basically, I'm using a CSS is the way that I style my HTML. So it stands for cascading style sheets, and it's called that because when you do actual CSS, the cascading part is that stuff gets applied. How do I explain that? basically, if you apply something to a subchild of an element in your DOM, your document object model, then the things that you apply specifically to that element overrule the things that were done by the parent. Right? Take me down. Thank you, Blue. It's a little bit of a complicated thing to explain slightly, but it's not. Basically, like, things get overwritten the further down you go, so it has this cascading kind of effect, hence the name, right? That doesn't matter as much as it's how you style your HTML. And I don't even, like, I'm using something called Tailwind, which is a framework for CSS, so I don't have to write my own for the most part. Like, I wrote some that is, there's a Flickr that I was talking about that doesn't work yet. So this is some custom CSS. Most of the CSS I'm using is part of a framework. So this stuff in here, like this, like scale 150 and P-2 and border -2 and border B2 and whatever. That probably shouldn't even be there, because that's already overriding that. Intruder. Who's the intruder? Is it me? Am I intruding on myself? Oh, shouldn't even be there. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's an intruder. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, every time I make an update to it, it has to rebuild, because it has to basically reform. It's taking everything that it sees in this HTML file, and if it's missing anything, then like border 2, it knows it's supposed to have a border -2, but it's not in the CSS file. It has to regenerate the CSS file. It's a big file, so it takes a little while every time it does that, which is a little bit frustrating, because like it does mean that I have to wait a little bit. Like, my changes aren't immediate. I'm also doing a live server thing for the client side like this. So when I make changes, you'll see them updated immediately. So I don't have to like constantly refresh. So if I was to simply like just absolutely take that out, then the button is gone. Like, it's immediately gone. Right now it's just back again. It is practical. Yeah, it's a cool little plugin that comes with VS Code. So, okay, I've got the button is still absolutely positioned, which I still don't actually want. Like, I don't want that, because that makes it float. Okay, this is better. I just need it to be, I need the bottom border of the input box to be black, or at least to match the background of the input, or just not to have it there. Like, I don't need the border there, right? So right now this is border cyan 500. I think I can do remove the border, away with the border. I should be able to do political programming. Yeah, I might be like, I wonder if I could. Because that's giving the color to it. There's border -2. Let's see what that does. Who looks all naked and terrible. Okay, I did it. So now we have just the left, top, and right, And then we can probably do, let's get the background of this div with a button in it to be this. And we'll give it a left and right border. So border L2 and border R2, and give it a border cyan of 500, just like everything else. So it has a nice sort of neon effect that I'm looking for. Looks pretty good. And it's even got, yeah, so we just have to position the power sign. Let's give that a little bit of padding, and I think we'll be good. It is pretty cool. This is actually going better than I imagined it would at first. Like, it's, nothing ever goes the way you want it to at first, you know. PL2, is it PL2 or P-L? I do not remember. I think it's just PL2. Yeah. And then it gives left padding. Let's give it, it's going surprisingly smoothly considering my normal luck with this kind of stuff. There we go. I think P2 is too much. To P1. That's better. Glatt. Was meint das? Was bedeutet glatt? Ist meine Frage. Glatt heißt smooth. Oh! Du hast recht. Sort of. Was ist die Bedeutung, like die, wie sagt man exakt? Nee, nicht genau, aber das Wort für exakt. Genauer bedeutet, you can, okay, genau, I thought so. Ich dachte so, genaue Besetzung. Okay, genaue Bedeutung. Okay. I wasn't sure. I never heard that before, so I assumed it was wrong. Okay. Slick even. Ooh. Glatt. So there's one small thing about this, is that it breaks the illusion a little bit, because when I do the focus, like the focus thing pops up, it doesn't go around the whole thing. Like it doesn't cover all this, just the top part, which is something I think I can live with. I'm not, yeah, I know. Like, I could fix that with, I could fix it with probably some very exacting JavaScript maybe, or like there's a way I could do it, but I just doesn't feel mission critical right now. I can put it off. It's just not that big of a deal. It's cosmetic, and it's not, it doesn't mean, it does not, you know, it doesn't matter that much. It's okay. So let's do the thing that I wanted to originally do. Yeah, so day 1 or day 2 buttons, right? So radio buttons for whether it's day 1 or day 2. As long as it works. You will find that that is what most people say. My brain doesn't like to think like that. It's like it wants it to be very like I fight against that a lot. My perfectionism, you know. Obviously, like I have to keep telling myself, like, perfect is the enemy of done. It's not perfect, but it works. It does what I want it to do. So I'll deal. It's gonna be fine. Let's do, so I'll put this in a div. This is very not semantic HTML at all, but I'm going to do this. And by not semantic, I mean that like my brain always wants things to be perfect. But I also just have to know, just have to know when to fold them. It's okay. So semantic HTML sort of demands that I use more specific tags, or at least ARIA labels, or like, I'm actually really big on accessibility, just like Lissy is. Lissy does a lot of accessibility, UX, UI design, stuff like that, which inspired me too. So when I do make things that are used by more people than just myself, I would definitely be using semantic HTML and making actual like tags that have precise names, and I'd be throwing in like sort of, there's actually software on the browser you can use to get a rating on how accessible your website is. The thing is, like, literally no one besides myself is going to be using this or seeing this, aside from, the stream. You know what I mean? Like, I could put this up on like a GitHub, but like I can put this up somewhere other people can get it, but I'm not gonna, that's why I'm not sort of bothering with the accessibility part of it, because I can access it and I'm the only one using it. But if I was making this for a larger group of people, right, like if I was putting this out there to the wider audience, with the intent that they would use it, then I would absolutely do that, right? So it's actually like no one was probably going to ask that, but it's important to me, so I'm just going to bring it up. Let's see. So I want this to be, this is already flex, I think, but I want this needs to be flex, and this needs to be flex. Okay, I know it needs to be flex row, and it needs to be flex in the viewers. Flex is sort of it's the way that most HTML, CSS setups are done. You have like, you can use just regular floats. You can deal with that, which I don't want to do. Flex is better. Flexbox is what it's called. It's a more intuitive way of handling positioning elements onto your DOM. You can also use grid, but grid is something I just haven't gotten used to yet. It looks fine. I've used it like a couple times to good effect, but I just don't know it as well as I know Flex. I don't even think I know Flex well enough. I do need to have these positioned where I'm going to have radio button. Oops. I think I did it up here. This code right here, this is JavaScript that is generating these things up here. So rather than have those things written out, I actually just generated them using code, like a just double nested for loop. Very fancy. But it's vanilla JavaScript, meaning I'm not using any libraries or anything to make this easier on myself. Because I just didn't feel like it. It's just like I can just do this using regular old JavaScript. It's not the end of the world. Was there a better solution? Probably. Did I care? At the moment, not really. So making input, radio type, yeah. Give it a name, give it an ID. So down here I'm gonna have a couple radio buttons. So the value is gonna be the different parts, right? So part 1, and I'll have part 2, and I think these need to be part of do those need to be part of the form, or do I just have that for no reason? I don't think so. I think I have this other places, right? Yeah. Yeah, so it actually it's used. How did I do? What did I do? Okay, just I think if they're just both part of the same name. Blue, no, don't leave. No. Okay. Are you tired? Musst du schlafen? Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. I assume it is very late over there in the Schlant. It's okay, Blue. Schlaf. Schlaf gut. Oh. Being responsible. 3:30. Oh, das ist früh. Du denkst, das früh ist? Or das ist früh. Whatever. 3:33. It's 3:33 a.m. In Germany? God. That's late. You know, I'll probably stream again tomorrow. 1 a.m. So responsible. Yeah, I mean, I'm one to talk, you know. Okay, cool. I'll let you know when I'm streaming. It's very responsible if that is a thing that you could tolerate as being a bedtime. Which, depending on the day, I could or I may or may not. It really depends. Genau. I think I have that as underscore. I think. Okay. Bis morgen. Ich werde. So it's got part pickle. Okay, so we've got that, and now just this should also be. This probably doesn't need to be flex row. Actually, I want this to be in a row, and this to have a particular kind of alignment. I don't necessarily remember how to do that off the top of my head. So that's correct, but I want those two radio buttons to be on the right hand side, right, away from the power symbol. So to do that, this needs to be, can I do that? Just give it a second while it's thinking. Or does it just not like that? I think it just doesn't like that. Let's get into the guts. I just want them spaced apart. The flex end probably doesn't do anything with that. It shouldn't do anything with that, based on what I know. These should. Let's do flex box. It's just CSS. It might have something to do with like the alignment, the item alignments or something. Flex direction being in row is fine. I don't care about the wrapping. Content justify, so justify content, maybe space between for justify content. I think if I wanted to do that, that's that. I'm gonna give it a second. No, it sees it there, but it's not. It's not doing it. And content, but yeah, space between. So it doesn't work. And just as a sanity check sort of thing, let's look at putting it there. Of course it doesn't work. I knew it wouldn't, but I just, sometimes I do this where so that doesn't work. That obviously wouldn't work. Like I do have a habit of trying things that I know will not work as a way of sort of sanity checking myself, right? I don't want to do something, or maybe it does work and it works against expectation, which is another valid reason to exhaust attempts. This is sort of just what CSS is, you know, it's very persnickety. So just if I'm doing the content, if I do space around, or space around is more like what I wanted, but not exactly. Hey, that did space. I guess it just didn't rebuild. Because that's exactly what... it's annoying. Hold on. This is supposed to be the space between, and that's the thing that I did. Is that not what I did? So this is acting like it's not seeing it, like it's not seeing the Tailwind version of that in there. Which is what makes me think that it's just not, when it rebuilds, it's not rebuilding that. Space dash between should be the thing that I saw over here, or in, not over there. Oh. Well, this is doing margin, which is not really what I want. I'm actually looking for the Flexbox version of Space Between. Just about content. So, oh, is it just, oh, you know what? That's what it is. It's not Space Between, it's just Between. That's why. Wrong word. There we go. See what it does. Is it better? I think it fixed it. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's my brain working the way it usually does. Okay. So here, let's do labels for these inputs, and hopefully, so this will be part 1 and part 2. Cool. And then I actually, you know, speaking of Space Between, let's maybe do space x1. See how much that does. Not much. Did that do anything? Let's give it a second to think. I cannot tell if that actually had any meaningful impact. put some white space in between, which I didn't realize it did. Can I put... Oh. Can I... Not for the input, actually. Yeah, for the input. Actually want... Yeah, maybe if I do SpaceX 10, can I, let's try it. Give it something nice and chunky. I just don't like them so tight together like that. Okay, so that's probably not going to. Let's just give it a second. It's thinking real hard. Okay, yeah, that's better. And then I will actually also do that to this input so that they are pushed apart from the side. I think that looks all right. It's functional. So then the part picker thing, this will be checked by default from part 1. And now all we have to do is hook this up to, we have to grab the value out of this and hook it up to the input of the, well, hook it up to the, in here. So we are going to have to, at some point in here, grab the, it's a little bit annoying. I'm just going to write a function for it. So by name, and this one was the, I think I just called it part picker. Which I'm actually going to F2 that guy. Oops. Oops. Since I realized that I did have the convention of putting the type onto the end of the name. Where'd I put that sucker? There it is. I think it's Control H for that, actually, right? Yeah, yeah. I should have just did that. So just in case I have it anywhere else, but I kind of doubt it. No, not that one. Okay. So hopefully I assume that worked. Okay, so the radio value, we get the everything that has that name in it. Obviously, this is very much an example of DRY, right? I'm violating the DRY principle because I have the same functionality for two different functions. And what I should really do is turn this into one function, you know, dependency injection, just put the name of the element in to the function. That is the responsible, correct thing to do. And we will do it later. I'll write a little to-do so that I refactor this. These two functions can be rewritten as one function with name of the name of the, what do you call it? Name of the input element. It's the injected parameter. So I could basically pull this out, it's the whole dependency injection thing, like, yeah, and yes, I will do that. I promise. But right now I'm just a little bit antsy to get things done. Oh, man, I'm goofing hard. Hold up. Depart. Oh my god. What's wrong with me? There we go. Part radio name, part. I think this is fine, and then we'll just do a return on that. And I don't actually need that log. I'll keep that one for now for testing. Part selection value equals get part radio. Oops. It's the same thing as that, or it should be, because I have the value of it being part 1, part 2. So yeah, it'll take the only digit that's in there, just pulls it out. It might not be the most elegant way to do that, but I don't think it matters that much. So this will be part selection number in there, and I may as well, just for testing purposes, make sure that it's sanity checking, which I like to do. Wait. Oh, value and number. Yes, that's fine. Value is actually different from the number. The value of the element is the nomenclature that's used for it. So I think that's fine. It just threw me for a second. I was like, the value and the number. But they actually don't mean the same thing. Okay. Okay, so let's see if that helps. So let's do, I know that this is supposed to gives me -1, for part 2 gives me 5. Yeah. That is correct. Very cool. Okay, so I've got part 1 and part 2 switch working, and I've also got so there's an overflow of input. I've also got it, boom, and it doesn't overlap the power symbol. Good. Very cool. What time is it? 9:56? Okay. So, how long have I been streaming? A little over an hour. Let me see what day 2 involves again. This is the one about the wrapping paper. Find the surface area of the box. 2LW, 2WH, 2HL. And they give us a couple of things we can test against. 43 square feet. So this should be another one that I assume wouldn't be too brain breaking. I mean, I've done it already. So I assume it's probably perfectly accessible. Let's look at, let me actually do, just copy this day into this one. This will be day 2. In the exports, we want, yeah, exports are still good. Okay. I have the next the next object in here. Well, I think next is usually it's like a callback or something that gets put in there, but I'll leave it in there in case I ever end up using it. I kind of doubt I will, because I'm not handling this by chaining middleware the way that servers tend to. Everything is just done in a route and sent back. If something gets very complicated, I may consider breaking it up into, like, I don't know how that would work. I don't feel like that would work very well, to be honest. That doesn't feel good. So I doubt I'm going to use it, but we'll just keep it there for now. Do part 1. That's this guy right here, and then this one, that guy right there. Very cool. So just copy and paste the puzzle. Whoops. I was told there would be no math. There is always math. Coding is math. Even has the parameters for that, which is really cute. I like the way that handles that, even if I don't use it the way I should. Okay. The elves are running low on wrapping paper, and so they need to submit an order for more. They have a list of the dimensions, length L, width W, and height H of each present, and only want to order exactly as much as they need. Fortunately, every present is a box, a perfect right rectangular prism, which makes calculating the required wrapping paper for each gift a little easier. Find the surface area of the box, which is 2LW plus 2WH plus 2HL. The elves also need a little extra paper for each present, the area of the smallest side. Okay. So their example is a present with dimensions 2 by 3 by 4, requires 2 by 6, or 2 times 6 plus 2 times 12 plus 2 times 8 equals 52, obviously doubling each one and then multiplying that by 2, right? So it's like, yeah, 2 times L times W. So it's, I see, so it's 2 times 3 and then doubling that, and then 3 times 4, doubling that, and then 2 times 4 and doubling that. Okay. Plus 6 square feet of slack, so that's the minimum of doing L times W, W times H, and H times L. Now present with dimensions 1 by 1 by 10 requires 2 by 1 plus 2 by 10 plus 2 by 10, of course. 42 square feet plus 1 square foot of slack for a total of 43 square feet. And we could do other tests and see what we would need out of that. We're going to create a new, we're actually going to copy this guy. Why can I never paste these things? Like, what is the dealio? It doesn't seem to like me doing that. So what I'm going to do is complain about it for a second. Why does it not want to do this? It's so annoying. But then I'm just going to make a new file. Do that. And probably also just copy all that stuff and just remove. I also, I did notice on reflection that for these tests in here, I did say on day 1. I didn't mean day 1. This really should have said part 1. Like these should all say part, not day. Right. I'm going to fix that later. Okay. Oops. Let's actually go ahead and do the basic tests. They're kind of the sanity check tests that should always be in there. Of just like whether or not it exists. And of course it should. There's no reason it wouldn't. But why not? And then this will be admin of code day 2 part 1 tests. Okay. So we're going to find that the input for this is, we get a whole bunch of them. 29 by 13 by 26 and just a whole bunch of other ones. The idea here is that like all the numbers in the list are in feet. How many total square feet around paper should they order? So we would get the total for this one, that one, and we would add them all up at the end. All the results of those would be added up at the end. So right now you would have 58 plus 43, right? Which is, what is that? 8 plus 3 is 11, right? 5 plus 4 is 9, so 101, right? So I wonder how we test that. How would, because obviously like the individual test would be 2 by 3 by 4, 1 by 1 by 10, just being input. Like individually, but then also together as a list. And this is where the query thing is going to get interesting, because I actually don't have I mean, the query can be as long as I want it to be. Let's do it should respond with let's see. Oh, let's go actually copy and paste this. Oh no, it's already copy pasted. It's over here. Dude, let's close that. It's coming as 2 by 3 by 4. Gotta stop doing things like that. Down here. And it's gonna respond with 58 if 2 by 3 by 4 but is 2 by 3 by 4. Now this should fail. Oops, actually didn't want to do that. I wanted to do, I need to cut this server because you can't do tests without, while the server's running. See what it does. Hopefully I didn't do anything too stupid. Okay, good. It failed like it's supposed to. Let's actually go back into this and remove any other ones. Okay, good. So I hopefully won't see any more of those. Although I do still see some. I must have, oh yeah, because I have those. I actually don't need those. Don't know why I kept them in the first place. Let's reopen AOC Day 1 and just find any console logs, because it's running this as part of the test, all the testing. So I just kill all the console logs, which I'm sure there are lots of much better solutions than using console logs, but a little stuck in my way as far as that goes. Okay, one failed, which is good. We did not want this to pass. And it should be the oh. Well, I mean, that's just as well, right? Like, that it's in here. Like, it should be obviously 58. In fact, it should be, no, it's coming in as a, it should be coming as an actual number, right? And it better fail, because I'd be spooked if it didn't. Okay. Okay, so now let's get in here and try to get this to do the thing, right? So solution result is blankety blank. We're going to so we have length, width, and height. So let L, W, H, right, and the solution input, like, I suppose, like, I guess what I'm going to do is array equals solution input dot split, much like I did previous day. And then, you know, I could do that, or I guess I could do regular expression. That's probably the more elegant way to handle this, is use the regex. That's going to require me to remember how to do. God, I just don't do that often enough. Let's look at what I did for. I use regular expressions back here. It's just this, so it's like just the string and then dot match, right? So it should be coming in as a string, and I can probably just do dot match and write a regular expression that captures only the numbers, and it should just be number x number, and then I could probably do like I'm going to check this against regex 101. So, yep, that seems to work. Got all my matching groups. Okay, cool. That was not brain busting in the least, thank God. So now we can do, we don't want that to be set to the array, obviously. We want, God, I had to remember how to collect the matching groups. It should just be solution input this, and then let's look at what the let's look at what the result gives us. It's in the console. Undefined. It's the usual thing where I probably did something real dumb. Oh, of course I did something dumb. Yeah, so 1, 2, and 3 are the three, so I could probably do just 2. I assume it's length with height. Was it? What did it say? Yeah, LWH. So it should be in order LWH. Okay. Okay. Now, of course, it can be argued how elegant a solution this is, but you know, whatever. It's much worse doing this in C, I promise. Okay. So this should be fine, and then it said that the result would be 52 plus the 6 feet of slack. So if we only do this, we should get 52. Yeah, that's fine. Let's let well, it's 2 times, what did it tell? It said it specifically. 2 times L times W. And then there was, what was it? 2 times W times H. And 2 times H times L. $52. It is. Okay, next up, we need the length of the smallest side. LW, WH, or HL. Obviously, we can do a comparison of, there should be, I think JavaScript has a min function, just, it's in there. It should be in there. It might also have, let's see. It's math.min. And it should just take in 2 arguments. No, it takes an n number of arguments. Even better. Something I did consider doing is the dot 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 there that you see there. That's the what do they call it? Has a specific name. It's the one that expands the array. What was it called? I have to look it up now or else it's going to drive me crazy. It's not in there. What? I think it's an operator, is it not? Am I going crazy? I know it's not a string operator. I didn't think it was anything unary. Spread operator. So something I could have done, right, is use the spread operator, because you could tell that like what it's doing is like it iterates over the, you can use it to sort of turn your array into a list of parameters. It's an iterable list of parameters. It's really neat, right? And you could just sort of like spread it out in place, right, instead of having to because normally what you would have to do, like if you had this kind of thing, right, like, man, I don't know, you actually don't know what you would do. Like you can see here that like this, but it is smart enough to figure out like what kind of, how it's being spread out. If it's being done like in a function argument, then it knows it's supposed to spread into a list of parameters. If it's an array literal, it knows it's supposed to spread into its own array. Object literals spreads out into its own object. And I was briefly considering doing that, but I didn't know right away how I would approach that, because like I'm not using everything in that array. I'm just using those three. I also personally think this is more readable. Like, it's pretty obvious what I'm trying to do here, and the spread operator would probably be not quite as, like, it would be slick, but it wouldn't be, I don't even know what the word is. Semantic, maybe? Readable, legible. I just feel like it's better to do it like this because I'm being more explicit about what I'm trying to do. I don't really need to comment this, really, right? Like, it should be obvious from the code what it is I'm trying to do. It's the Uncle Bob kind of let the code speak for itself unless you have to step in for it, right? So let's do, well, I guess I think I can still use it, because what if I, well, no. Well, actually, yeah. Because it's iterable, if I was to do let so, well, actually, I don't want that. I want this to be L times W, W times A, W times H, and I want this to be H times L. There we go. This is fine, I think. Yeah, gives me the 6. That's pretty slick. I like that. All right. So now we can do the solution result should be equal to the dimension product plus the dimension min, which hopefully will be the 56, and this should pass if that actually, but it didn't, because of course it didn't. Or 58 is what I meant. Oh, body.error. I have body.error. That's why. And it worked. Okay. That means that, in all likelihood, because I've worked this out to its entirety, the other input should work as well, right? But it won't be done after that because there's still the problem of adding them all up, right? The input will have to have new line separators in them, right? So that's going to be its own its own additional problem, right? Let's not worry about it yet. Let's confirm that this will work with the other test. So if it's 1 by 1 by 10, we should get 43. didn't like it. I'm sure I did something silly. What was the silly thing that I did? What is a silly thing I did? Is it... Ooh, I might know. It might be the regular expression that maybe we need... Yes, okay. It was bringing in as 1 by 1 by 1 because it didn't know to exhaust the number, the actual number of digits in them, and the numbers. Okay. The plus means one or more of those digits. If it's just /t, it just thinks it's looking for one of them. Fair enough. Okay. That's good. So it's passing, those are passing. I should also be able to, I'll have to see if I can find an extension that lets me do something like right click on one of these things and only run these tests instead of having to run all of them. I'm sure there's a way to do that. I'll figure it out later. So I don't think anyone else has dropped in. Just do a little here, bring it over there. No, I think it's just me. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, okay, we're good. So the next thing we need to do is figure out a way to put both inputs in and then add them together, right? Because I should get 58 plus 43 or 101 when both inputs are in, right? The thing is, in the actual solution or the actual puzzle input, it looks like this. So these are new line separated values, right, or strings. So it would really be something like 2x, 3x, 4 / n 1x, 1x, 10. And honestly, that should work. Like, if we put, I'll have to check that, I'll test that. That should be fine. But this does mean that we have to rework this part. Oh, this is where it gets a little bit tough with this. Or it doesn't necessarily get tough. Okay. I think it's fine. The solution input, okay. Solution input array, which I don't think I'm using yet. We're going to set this equal to solution input dot split, but we're going to split it by the new line. So when we toss this in and we're testing it against this guy right here. Let's just see what happens with it. That's perfect. So let me also check and see. I'm going to actually run the server again very quickly, and I'm going to see what happens when, let's just pick a few of these and we toss this in here for part 1. Obviously it gives it a 0, don't care. Gives me nothing. And don't get a log on the server either. Even though I'm supposed to. Like I should see this. Or at least I thought I would see that. Pourquoi? Warum? Like, I don't think it's messing with anything else. Are we actually hitting? Which was this little thing down here? Oh. Okay. Oh. That's interesting. So that's a problem. When it, okay. I had mentioned in the previous stream something about URL encoding, and I think this is actually where the URL encoding is going to come in. We need to make sure that those /n's get encoded as /n's, right? So it needs to read them in as actually /n, \n. So URI encoding looks a component. Would that? Okay. So I think it just has this, like encoding URI. We can try it. This does mean that I'll have to encode and decode on the server side. I don't think that's that big of a deal. Wait, is it not? Just, oh, it's encode URI. Right. And then I said, we can do that. And then this part will be template string. Make this square input. Like, I'm just gonna. I want to see what that does. If we get the same result out of that, even. So I'll kill that for a second. We do. That's good. So over here, not that, but this. When we send over the solution input, we may need to encode it first. So I guess I'll give you a const. Hey. So, I mean, that's all well and good. Let's see what that does for this. Doing the console log. So let's look at back in here, go back to here. Let's give this a reset. Oh. Oh. Okay, I think it likes that better, right? We're at least getting everything in there. And then we can, after that, when it comes in, so I mean, that's actually fine. It's showing me that in the HTML, which I wanted it to do. So let me see. What it does for me in here when I actually run. Is it giving me anything useful? I doubt it. It's returning 0 from right here at 126.15, which is this guy, right? Solution data.solution result. And therefore, we're probably putting, that's where it's getting the 0, which is fine. I'm sort of anticipating that, but what am I? Okay. Trying to consider what it is specifically I need to be seeing out of this. I think it's like let's do this. Solution input array. See if we find this anywhere in any of our logs, console logs. And we're running the server. It's interesting, I'm not seeing it. I see this, which is coming from index.html, which is fine. Why am I not seeing the logs from here? I would have thought they'd show up in here. They normally do. I'm a little confused. Where was I finding the... I mean... Okay, we'll run the test on... Well, the thing is, like, I can't... Okay. I would have thought that those console logs inside the server would show up when this is running, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Which I don't think I realized. But why wouldn't they show up? Which server is it running? It should see it, right? I definitely remember getting this, being able to see that in here. What's the difference? Okay. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know where I'm supposed to get. Let's try something here, like. Gives me a solution result of 58. Like it's supposed to. Still gives me 58. And if I put in the let's try this. Oh, you know what? I had the wrong day selected. I'm goofing hard, but that's the wrong amount. So let's still take a look at this. Copy the message. Throw it in here. Gives 3276. Okay. Doing it through Postman works. It doesn't. Yeah, there is some disconnect in my understanding of how the server is responding to this this terminal. Like what exactly is going on here. I don't actually know. I have to clarify that for myself later. But this looks pretty good. We've got everything we need. Oh, wait. Okay. 3876. That's probably accurate to what this is showing us. So this should be fine. Everything was working the whole time. I just forgot to press a button. Which sounds very much like me. That's very much Jared in a nutshell. Okay. So we probably had that. We had it the whole time. Second. Actually, let me. Had to get hydrated for a second. Okay. Goofing. Okay. So. We've got this solution input array, and the idea is that 29 by 13 by 20. Wait, which one? 11 by 17 by 3. I wonder which of these ones it did. It probably did the last one. We can check that 11 by 17 by 3 if that's actually going to give us the amount that it said, 3276. We'll just make a new test. $3276 was it? Yeah. If the input is, I'm assuming it takes in the last input 11 by 17 by 3. I would assume. That feels like a lot for that, but it does feel like way too much. let's see what it was. So it should be 3276, and our input is this. Right, and we're just going to go ahead and then we're going to kill the server, and we're going to run a test. These are going to, oh yeah. This is fine. What are the bad? This is 3 failed, 1 failed, 2 passed, 3 failed, 16 passed in the test suites. Oh, why wouldn't I do that? Ooh, decode URI might. Does it? Oh, it's returning a string now that says undefined when the type was undefined before, but decode URI probably creates a string called undefined. So it thinks it's defined. That's frustrating. I mean, that's one way to do it. It's fine, I guess. Yeah, this is the usual kind of the annoyance of coding in this language, one of the big ones. I don't know, I hear any future audience screaming, use TypeScript. Agreed. That Wally wasn't in theme. Like, I didn't want to use TypeScript because I wanted specifically to use JavaScript. And of course now I'm regretting it. TypeScript would have... This wouldn't have even been an issue if I had been using TypeScript. I would have known ahead of time. And there'd be a way to handle this, I feel like. A way to handle it better. Setting equal to the string undefined feels... Oh, it just doesn't... It doesn't feel great. I'm wondering if there is not a solution that is more palatable than that. But also, this is not 3276 when it gets passed in. So, because it isn't 3276, I don't actually know where that value is. Well, yes I do. It should be the very first one. It should be the first one, right? Because if it would make more sense for these numbers, but also it should return after the very first one in the in the list, in the array, right? So let's see if since we know that doesn't work, but I mean, here, do some input rather than this, it should be this, which feels more likely. Confirmed. That is what is happening. Okay, so what we need to do is, once we have that array, I admit I have a tendency to use for loops over more functional functions. You know what I mean? Functional paradigms like using .map or things of that nature. Again, I think it's a matter of just expediency. I just want to get it over with. It works. It's nice. I could run, like, make this, you know, it's like a lambda function. I could just, anonymous function that I run through .map, right? And for each one of these, I run this on it. And at the end, I do like I add them all together. If it weren't so late, I might actually do that. I might have fun with that. I might do it tomorrow. Like, there's the first thing that I do as a way to just sort of explore, because this is, I'm in no particular rush, to be honest, to get any of this done. Like, I mean, hopefully before December, because that's hopefully when the next year will start. I don't actually know if that's happening this year. I hope it is. I haven't really seen Eric posting on Twitter. I'm not calling it the other name on Twitter. I'll have to see when it gets closer to December if there is going to be another year. I assume there is. I feel like I would have heard if there wasn't. But it is a thing he does in his spare time. And if he didn't have spare time this year, then that's just the way it is. So equals undefined. This still just bugs me. I'll just have to get over it. So anyway, so let solution sum equals 0. So the solution result will not be set yet. It'll be this, and then solution result will actually be here, I think. Okay. So if we are expecting 101 for these guys. Oops. we are doing the query like this. I assume should be fine. Let's find out what happens with it. 4 failed. Cool. So this is the nice part, actually, about test-driven development. Something went catastrophically wrong. I wouldn't have immediately known that and which ones went wrong if I hadn't been doing this whole time. So I've borked something important. Looking for 56, any console logs that are on 56. Here's, oh, we get 0. Super interesting. What are we getting? I don't see that console log. That's interesting. I don't see the one that is supposed to be at 52. Don't see it. I'm seeing solution input. Like this. I'm seeing this. Ooh, is it reading part equals 1? Is that the problem? But if that's... that can't be it. Just sanity check one more time. We should be seeing... we should see that at least once. But we clearly aren't. One's 56 down here. Oh. Right. Important part I completely forgot to do. Okay. Does that change anything? Still see zeros. Oh. It's not running at all because dot length. Okay. Oh man. I should not be falling for such tomfoolery. And this is really why, like, pair programming is so much more superior and you get more done. Like, that person who should be screaming at you about obvious things is sitting next to you, the other pair of eyes that sees what you don't. Which I think is why most programmers do work in pairs. Because otherwise you only have yourself to rely on for checking yourself before wrecking yourself. That's a little annoying, but everything passes. It totally passes now, which is great. So this worked just fine, and I'm assuming that this would extend to an input. Well, we have to check that, right? We have to check and see if it extends to this input, right? So we'll take this whole thing, oh, right. We have to turn on the server. Zero. Cool. So that tells me that it's not actually decoding it properly. It's the right encoding, but it's not. Dang. I was hoping that would work. That's frustrating. Okay. Also not super sure how to get the is there a way to see the console logs from here maybe? That feels like too much to hope for. Because I would like to be able to see what the server says those things are, or like what it's supposed to look like after it's decoded, which I was always hoping would show up here, but it's not showing up there. It runs from here, like it starts from here, gets configured here, it starts here. the tests show it, but the tests aren't that input. So I really need to be able to figure out how I can convert the new lines in, like the %0/8 that you see in there, those are new lines in ASCII. So this is encoding just fine, but it doesn't seem like it's decoding the way it's supposed to. What I'm going to try to do is just to get a look at what it is showing me. And I'm just going to very callously do that. And okay, not insane. It's actually decoding them into /n's like it's supposed to. Like that's exactly what it's supposed to do. So what's the deal? Why are okay. Oh, he pressing the correct button. Right. Okay. Okay. What I might do, because that feels like it's going to be a problem in the future, me thinking there's a problem when there isn't one, maybe I can store the value of the day, like what day is selected, in like a cookie and like a local storage, session storage or whatever, so that when I reload, every time I reload it resets the button. Just have it not reset the button, just keep that information in the session cookie so it stops resetting it, because I'm going to forget every single time. Like, I should be able to trust myself not to forget that sort of thing, but I don't. Not after it's happened twice. Fool me once, shame on me. No, shame on you. Shame on thrice. Okay. The result, by the way, oops, not that one. This one is correct. 1586300, and compared was 1586300. Right. So nothing was wrong the entire time. I don't know how to press buttons. Okay. 11:16. I'm a little bit tired. I think now is a good time to cut it. It's also been a good 2.5 hours or so. I definitely want to come back tomorrow and finish out the second part of this day and then move on to day 3. That feels like a good time. And maybe Blue will be back. Blue has basically made the stream for me. So let's call it good seas, and I will say good night.